Welcome to Countats. In this lesson, we're going to show you how to file your return as an individual, especially if your IRP5 details are not reflecting on your individual e-filing profile. And as such, you would notice that if it does not appear, that means SARS did not auto-assess you. So that means that you have to input your details yourself. So we're going to briefly go through one return where we show you how to go about filing your return and inputting your IRP5 details. Now, this is for educational purposes only. It's very important that you pay attention to every line item that you are going through and what you are ticking yes to and what you are saying no to, because it's very significant. So make sure that you understand what you are doing. Now, we are registered tax practitioners and we provide tax services to individuals and companies. You'll find more details on our website. So let's get into it. You can see I'm already here on SARS efiling website where I can just log in. So if you're not here yet, you can just type sarsefiling.co.za and it's going to bring you to this page. Otherwise, you can go to Google and type SARS login and it will take you to the SARS website, and then you just click on login and it will bring you here. So once you're here, you just put in your username and then you click on next, or you press enter, and then you put in your password. And then once you've put in your password, you just click on login, and once you've logged in, you can now do your return. So you can see how the page looks like. Now, it's important for me to mention this, that if your tax reference number is not showing there, or maybe your identification number is not showing there, if one of them is not showing there, that means that your e-filing profile is not fully functional, and you might need to contact SARS to help you in making sure that your e-filing profile is fully functional and you're then able to file your returns. Otherwise, you can make an online appointment, and we've done a video on that, on how to make an online appointment for whatever the case may be. You'll find the link to that lesson in the description below. Now you can see this is an e-filing profile for an individual. You can see we've got home, returns, services, tax status, and contact. And if yours is showing organization and the other items on the menu, then it's probably you are listed as a tax practitioner or an organization. So this one here is listed as an individual. So that is why the menu is shorter, but otherwise you're still going to do the same thing. So once you're here, you can see I'm already at returns. You can see it's showing returns issued and returns history. If it doesn't show that, then you can just click on returns and it will reflect these options here. So what you want to click on is returns issued, and then you click on personal income tax. You can see it's already on 2022. Now obviously here we are filing for 2022 because tax period 2022 is the one that ended on the 28th of February 2022. It started on the 1st of March 2021. So now that it's showing 2022, now let's say you are filing for the previous year, for 2021 or 2020 or as far back as you can, then you'll just click on that and then select the respective year you're dealing with here. But here we are filing for 2022, so we'll leave it at that, and then we'll click on request return. If you've already requested the return, then you just go into the return and begin filing. But here we're going to request the return, and you can see here that it has opened the return, and you can see here it's telling us that an income tax return has been generated for you containing the latest employee tax certificate, which is the IRP5 or an IT3A, information that SARS has received for you from your employer or employers. So in this case, you would see your IRP5 reflecting on your return. If the return does not contain all your tax certificate information, it means that either your employer or your employers has not yet submitted this information to SARS, or SARS is unable to match you to a tax certificate or tax certificates due to incomplete or inaccurate information on these certificates. For example, it does not contain your ID or tax reference number. So if it doesn't contain your ID or tax reference number, then it wouldn't appear here. SARS recommends that in such cases you do not file this return and rather try again later by refreshing your IRP5 data on the income tax work page. If you choose to file this return, please be advised that the processing time of this return may be significantly delayed and you may be required to submit supporting documentation. So what this means is that if your IRP5 is not showing here, that means that you'll input your details manually, but SARS usually requires you to submit supporting documentation. So this will be your tax certificates, including your IRP5 and your medical aid certificates or other certificates that are applicable. So we know what they're saying there, so we close this and then we open our tax return. So you click on that. I hope you saw which button I clicked on, and then here it's just giving us information, so you can close this one here. So make sure that the information on your return is correct, as SARS regularly receives new information from third parties which may differ from what you have provided. Use the refresh button to ensure that the latest third-party information is populated on your tax return. So we close this one here, and now we can begin filing our income tax return. We're going to begin with the form wizard over here, and you can see the first question here is this declaration made by a tax practitioner? So if you're a tax practitioner filing on behalf of a client, then you click yes over here, but when you click yes, you'll still have to put your tax practitioner number and your contact details. But if you're an individual, you're just filing for yourself, then you click on no over here, and then mark with an X if you're a foreign national and not a South African tax resident. So this is for tax purposes. Are you a resident for tax purposes? But if you are not considered as tax resident and you have to know what that entails, then you would mark it with an X. Otherwise, we'll leave that blank. And then here you can see taxpayer ceased to be a tax resident of the RSA. You can see that one is blanked out. It's not applicable to us. Were you unemployed for the full year of assessment and did not receive any income, including any capital gain or losses? So this is for someone who did not work at all from the 1st of March 2021 to the 28th of February 2022. If that's the case, then you'll click yes. Otherwise, if you worked during any of those periods, even if it's for 1 month, then you will click on no. And then the second question, were you unemployed for any period during this year of assessment? So if you worked for 6 of the 12 months, then you'll click yes here, and you would have to answer this question. For how many unbroken periods were you unemployed? And you'll click on the number of periods, all right? But otherwise, it's no, because here the taxpayer worked for the full financial period. Okay, and then did you receive income that is reflected on an IRP5 or IT3A certificate? In this case, we are going to click on yes, but you can see here the income tax certificate or the IRP5 is not reflecting. You would have seen it here. One of the sections would be IRP5, all right? But that means that the employer has not submitted this to SARS, or the records that were captured were incorrect. So that's one of the reasons why your IRP5 would not automatically appear on your e-filing profile. All right, so here we're going to click on yes, and we'll have to manually punch in our information from the IRP5 that we would have received from our employer. And here it says changing this value will move the medical or retirement data under the comprehensive questions, the standard questions in the wizard. Do you wish to continue? And let's say yes. All right, so how many certificates do you receive? So this taxpayer only worked for one employer, so we'll click on one. If you worked for more than one employer, let's say you worked for 2 or for 3, then you'll click on the number of employers, provided that you have all the IRP5s from those employers. Okay, so this one is 1. Did you pay any medical expenditure, including medical scheme contributions made by you or your employer towards a medical scheme where you were the principal or main member? So this is provided that you were the main member or the principal member. If you're not the main or principal member for any medical aid, then you click on no. Otherwise, here we'll click yes, because this taxpayer did pay medical expenditure where they were the principal member. Okay, and then the next question, did you or your employer make any retirement annuity fund contributions for the benefit of yourself? All right, so if you made retirement annuity fund contribution, then you click on yes, or your employer, if they did that on your behalf, then you'll also click on yes. But if it's a no, you'll just click on no. So here we're clicking on no for this taxpayer. Mark with an X if you made any contribution to pension or provident fund for the purposes of past or additional services bought, and that is not reflected on any IRP5 or IT3A certificate. So if you made any of these contributions for your pension or provident fund and it's not reflected on your IRP5, then you'd have to mark with an X. Do you want to claim a deduction against the travel allowance? So if you received a travel allowance and you want to claim a deduction based on that, and you have to read on this and you have to make sure you know what you're doing, especially having the supporting documents that is acceptable by SARS. So you have to make sure that you know this. You can see here, we're going through it in a nutshell. That's because we do this on a daily basis. But if you're not sure about a line item and you need more information, you can go ahead to the SARS website and read on it more to be able to know, can I claim a travel allowance? Do I have the supporting documents that are necessary? Did I correctly do the calculations for the travel allowance or any other expense that you're claiming? Then you make sure that you know what you're doing there. All right, but here we're going to click no because the taxpayer didn't receive any travel allowance. Do you want to claim a deduction against the employer provided vehicle? So if you're driving a company vehicle and you want to claim a deduction, again, make sure you've read on it. Make sure you know what the supporting documents that are required are. Make sure you've done the proper calculations. So here we're going to click no. The taxpayer does not have a company vehicle. Did you receive any form of remuneration for foreign services rendered? So if you rendered any foreign services, here you click yes, but in our case, it's no. Right, and then here you can see it's blacked out. Right, did you receive any interest distributions from a real estate investment trust, taxable local dividends, taxable foreign dividends, and or dividends deemed to be income in terms of section 8E and section 8EA, excluding amounts received as a beneficiary of a trust or deemed to have accrued in terms of section 7. So you can see here they're mentioning a few sections. An important thing to do here is if you don't know or you're not sure what they're saying, don't just select yes or no. Make sure you go to the section and read up on it and know what they are saying. Otherwise, if you need the help of a tax practitioner, you can also contact us and we will be able to guide you on this at a fee. Did you receive exempt local or foreign dividend income? The answer is yes, you select yes. In our case, it's no. Was any income distributed to you or vested in you as a beneficiary of a trust or deemed to have accrued in terms of section 7? In our case here, it's no. Were there any transactions, contributions, transfer, withdrawals, income received or accrued on any tax-free investments held by you during this year of assessment? So if you made any tax-free investments that you had during the year of assessment, anytime from March 2021 to February 2022, you click yes over here for any of them that are applicable here. Otherwise, if none of it is applicable, then you click on no. Did you derive income from letting of fixed properties, excluding amounts received or accrued as a beneficiary of a trust or deemed to have accrued in terms of section 7? So here it's someone who owns a property and is renting it out to tenants and they're receiving an income. If the answer is yes, then you have to click yes there. Otherwise, no, if you're not renting out your property that you own. All right, so you click no there if that's not applicable to you. Are you a director of a company or a member of a closed corporation? So if you've registered a company under your name, then you are a director or a member of a closed corporation if you own a closed corporation. So you click yes if that's the case. Otherwise, no if you're not a director nor a member of a closed corporation. Does any declaration in this return relate to an application made under the SARS voluntary disclosure program? So if you made an application under the voluntary disclosure program, then you click on yes. Otherwise, if you don't know what SARS voluntary disclosure program is, then chances are you did not make an application under the VDP. All right, so we'll click on no here for this particular taxpayer. Do you want to claim donation made to approved organizations in terms of section 18A? So if you made a donation to an organization that is approved by SARS as an organization in terms of section 18A, and remember, they will need to have the number. You will need to input the number of that organization as received by SARS. Otherwise, if you did not make any donation, you click on no over here. Did you receive any income excluding amounts received or accrued as a beneficiary of a trust or deemed to have accrued in terms of section 7 and or incur any other allowable expenses not addressed above? So basically, if you received any other income over and above the one that is on your IRP5, all right, so if you have various sources of income, then you click on yes over here. Otherwise, if you didn't, then you'd have no. All right, so we'll click no for this particular taxpayer. So this lesson is mainly suited to someone who is working for only one employer and that's the only source of income. All right, so you'll find that your return will look similar to what we have done here. Okay, now that we've done that, you can see all the sections which is showing red. We need to make sure that we fill in everything until it shows blue. So let's go to taxpayer information. You can see the personal details here. You can put your personal details as a taxpayer. You put your surname, your first name, your other name if you have another name, your initials, your date of birth, your ID number. If you don't have an ID number, you're using a passport, then you'd put a passport there, and then passport country, you put it there, and then passport issue date if you're using a passport, and then your marital status. So are you not married, or are you married in community of property, or you're married out of community of property? So if you're married in community of property, then you'll have to put your spouse's details. Otherwise, if you're not married in community of property, then you will indicate that you're married but not in community of property. So it's quite easy to do that. All right, so here for the taxpayer, the spouse's details will have to go over there. And then you go to contact details and you have to put your email address. Make sure you put the correct email address for contact purposes. So if SARS needs to contact you, it requires additional documentation or for whatever the case may be, make sure your details are correct. So you have to put your email address and confirm it, as well as your cell phone number and your home telephone. And then do you confirm that the email and telephone numbers supplied are correct? So ensure that that is correct, because SARS may contact you. So you click on yes if you have double checked, and then you put your physical address. Right, so this is where you are staying, your residential address, and then you also put your postal address. So once you've done that, you go to banking details. Now here is also where it's very important. All right, so you make sure that your banking details are up to date. Okay, so usually many individuals would wonder why they're not receiving their refund, because they didn't double check their banking details, they didn't record it correctly, or they didn't ensure that it's correct. So you make sure that if you have not put your correct banking details, or there are not banking details showing at all, you'll just input all the details here. Under bank account details, you'll put your account number, your branch number, your bank name, and the account holder. All right, so that's what you'll do, and whether it's a check or savings account. And then at the end, you mark with an X if you declare that this information is true and correct in every respect. So you mark that with an X. And then now we get to the IRP5, where we'll put in these details. Now, if you're an individual whose IRP5 is already appearing on e-filing, don't just leave it as it is. If you've received your IRP5 from your employer, make sure that you double check what appears on the system with what you've received from your employer, and obviously checking that they are both correct, as captured by your employer and as well as received by SARS. So you check every line item. Here I must stress, it's also very important, so you cannot just do it haphazardly. All right, so you have to do it very carefully. So when you are at IRP5, what's your employer name? So you'll also look at your IRP5 and see the name of your employer as it appears on your IRP5, and you put it over there. And once you put your employer name, what is the certificate number? So if you've received an IRP5 from your employer, you'll see it's a very long number. In fact, it's the longest number that you would have in your IRP5. You'll see the certificate number. So you make sure that you put every digit on that number and you put it correctly so that it can be captured. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, and we've just put our certificate number, and you can see it's still showing red. All right, so we've put our IRP5 number, but it's still showing as red. And the reason it's showing as red is because we need to put our payee reference number, pay as you earn reference number. All right, so if you go to IRP5 and you go to employer information, you should be able to see the payee reference number, and you should put it there. If you're not sure which number it is, it's the first 10 digits of the certificate number. So if you take the first 10 digits of the certificate number and you look at your IRP5 and see the payee reference number, it should be the same. So you put the payee reference number. Once you've done that and it matches, you can see that it's no longer red. So that means that's fine. Okay, once we've put the certificate number and the payee reference number, and you can see obviously the year of assessment appears there, then we can put the income received. Now here it will be different for everyone, so it won't be the same from one individual to another. But if you're only receiving your salary or your income, all right, using just one code, then that's what you'd put it there. So I'm going to put the amount that the taxpayer received, and you put the source code as it appears on the IRP5. Okay, so I'll do that. And then once you've done that, you just scroll down and you make sure that everything is the same. All right, so if that's the only one that you need to put, then you will put that there. And then you look at non-taxable income, your gross employment income, make sure it matches the one that is on your IRP5. So here you can see it's 3699, and then the gross employment income, which is taxable. So I'll put that as it appears on the IRP5. So it may be the same as the one that you've already put, but this is the gross, the total income that has been received by the employee or that is due to the employee that is taxable. Once you've done that, then you go to deductions and we see what deduction they are there that are deductible. All right, so if you have any deduction on your IRP5, then you take account of that and you put it in. Otherwise, if not, you go to your tax credits and or employer employee contribution. All right, the first one we have there is PAYE, how much was deducted as pay as you earn. All right, and you look at it against the code. So make sure it appears in your IRP5. For instance, PAYE 4102, you make sure that you put the number that appears on your IRP5 as 4102, and you can see there we have the codes, which helps knowing what number you need to put where. Okay, and then employee and employer UIF contribution, again it's code 4141, so look for the 4141 on your IRP5 and you put in that number. And then the SDL contribution, if applicable, you will put that there under code 4142, so you look for that in your IRP5. So you can see here it's just copy and paste, but you make sure you're extremely careful. Once you're done, go back and recheck every number that you have put there. You don't want to make mistakes and file. All right, and then you can see the total tax SDL and UIF. Make sure that's the same number that appears on your IRP5. And once you have done that and you've put all the necessary details as they appear under each code on your IRP5, you can see here the question voluntary over deduction. So if you have voluntarily asked the employer to deduct more than they required, then you'll click on yes here. Otherwise, no. All right, if none of those were the case. All right, and then pay periods in the year of assessment. So if you worked for 365 days in the year, then you'd put that in there. Otherwise, it appears on your IRP5 as well. All right, so periods in year of assessment, 365 days, number of periods worked, then you'll put it there as it appears on your IRP5 as I've just mentioned. All right, period employed from, all right, so this is from the 1st of March 2021 to 28 February 2022, if that's how long the employee worked for. That's how long you worked for in the year of assessment. Otherwise, if you started after the 1st of March 2021, then you'd put the date that you started working. Okay, so I'm just going to put here my dates, and then my end date is 28 February 2022. Okay, once I put in there, just go back, like I mentioned, recheck everything as well as the other information. All right, so it doesn't hurt to go back and recheck everything, making sure that you've not made any mistakes or any errors. All right, once you've rechecked everything here, we go to taxpayer information, income, and you can see here local interest excluding SARS interest. So this one will be pre-populated from your bank if you received any interest, or if you received SARS interest, or if there was SARS interest received during this year of assessment, then it would also appear here. All right, so you make sure that you pay attention to all the details you are given here. You can see under investment income it's saying micros and X, if any of the amounts declared by you should be excluded from the communal estate. That's if you indicated that you're married in community of property. Otherwise, if it's just one amount there, you can see what the amount is, and this would be what you would receive from your bank if you had interest on your account, or you can download from your app as the IT3B, and you'll pay attention to see whether the amount is correct. Okay, and then foreign interest, foreign dividends, distribution from real estate investment or trust, dividend deemed to be income in terms of section 8E and section 8EA. So you put in those details if they're applicable to you. Otherwise, if not, and you've made sure that that's the case, you go to taxpayer information deductions, right? And this taxpayer you can see has medical deductions. So you can see here, were you the principal or main member of a medical scheme to which you and or your employer made contributions? Again, we had answered this on top, so you can see it appears here, and the answer is yes. How many medical schemes were you the principal or main member during the year of assessment? If the answer is 1, then you put in 1 there, but this one here would already be pre-populated. So it's got the medical scheme name, it's got the medical scheme membership number, and it's got the total number of dependents, including their principal member. So make sure that all these are captured correctly. If not, then you need to make the corrections accordingly, right? So once you've checked on that and you're looking at it in conjunction with the certificate you'd have received from your medical aid scheme, if you are a principal member of a medical aid scheme, all right, so make sure that all those are included. Okay, and then once you've checked everything there, you just scroll down and you can see here under medical expenditure, it says including medical scheme contributions where you are not the principal or main member of the medical scheme. So you go through this information, check what is applicable to you, and make sure you're giving the correct answers. And once you're done, you can see your statement of assets and liabilities, and here you can just list what your assets are, and you have to know obviously what each of these terms stand for, and we've done lessons on many of these terms when you're looking at statements or other items. You'll find them somewhere on our channel. All right, so if you want to know what does this stand for, what does this mean, then you can have a look at that. But otherwise, you put in your details here as they are applicable, and then statement of foreign assets and liabilities, if that's applicable to you, then you put in the necessary details. Otherwise, if you've done all that you need to do, you've double checked all the numbers that you've put in here, what I like to do before I submit the return to SARS, I like to save it first, because sometimes if you press on submit to return to SARS and there's a glitch or the screen just freezes or it doesn't do anything, it doesn't move anywhere, then you'll find that all your details that you would have put from the beginning would have gone and you'll have to start the process all over again. So it doesn't hurt to first save. Once you've saved, you can see here your return has been successfully saved on the e-filing system. You press continue. Once you've pressed continue, you click on the return again. All right. Once you've clicked on the return again, now you can submit. All right. So this is the same note that came up. All right. Let's scroll down here. You can double check whatever numbers you want to check to just make sure that you're comfortable with all the information that you've put in. Because again, if you have to manually input the details of your IRP5, you will have to submit your IRP5 to SARS. All right, you scan it and you upload it. Obviously, after they have indicated that they requested it, and chances are they will request the IRP5. So you take note of that, you scan and you submit the documentation and wait for them to get back to you. So that's why it's important to check every number. They just don't take you at your word. Okay, and once you've double checked everything, we can now press submit return to SARS. Otherwise, if you wanna do a calculation and see what the outcome will be, whether there's a refund or SARS, then you can click on calculate and you will see what that is. Otherwise, if you are comfortable, you want to submit, then you can submit return to SARS, and here you have to declare that the information furnished in this return is true and correct in every respect, and you have disclosed in full the gross amount of all income accrued to or received by me during the period covered by this return, and I have the necessary receipts and records to support all my declarations on this form, which I will retain for inspection purposes. If that's the case, and you're comfortable with that, then you can click on confirm, right? And your return would be submitted. You can see your return has been successfully submitted, and you press continue, and you can see here that it's filed through e-filing and you've submitted. So if you want to check what SARS has to say, you'll usually be sent an email and an SMS if that's how you opted to receive communication from them. Otherwise, you can click on SARS correspondence after a few minutes and click on search correspondence, and you will see the message that you would have received from SARS. So you can see here we've received the IT34, which indicates what our return is and what the status is. All right. So usually you'll also receive a message to submit supporting documentation for verification. I hope this made sense. I hope you've gained value from this lesson, and if you have, consider subscribing to our channel, like this video, and share it to those you think it might help. Till next time, cheers.